All right, welcome everyone. This is part 4 of our Psychedelics 101 series. Feels like it's flying by. Tonight, we are going to be talking about returning to reality. So we'll get into what that means in just a second, but I just want to talk about a couple upcoming events that we have on our calendar. We have our 5th and last part of our 101 series next Tuesday, and we'll be talking about blast off basics, everything you need to know before going on an altered state experience. We also have a lot of other upcoming events, too many for me to list. I'm just going to drop a link. We have a death positivity integration circle coming up. We have a psychedelic professionals integration circle, as well as a lot more. So if you want to check out all of our events, I dropped the link for that in the chat as well. All right, so tonight we'll be talking a little bit about aftercare, how to take care of yourself and your lovely body after psychedelics. We'll be talking about integration. What is integration? How do you integrate? And we'll talk a little bit about how to make the best use of the timeline after you take an altered state. All right, I'm going to read our disclaimer. If you've been to one of our events before, you know it, you love it, but I'm going to say it every time. Altered states integration is not therapy, and it's not intended as a substitute for other types of counseling or medical care. We are not licensed therapists, at least in this space, and we do not claim to diagnose, treat, or cure any diseases. We are simply peer coaches providing a safe space for clients to process the contents of their experiences and receive feedback with reflective listening. This presentation is psychoeducational and is not medical advice in the slightest. I also want to note that altered states integration does not encourage or condone the purchase, sale, or transfer of any illegal substances, nor do we encourage or condone partaking in any unlawful activity related to said illegal substances. Please do not use our events for sourcing or promotion of any retreats or substances. And as always, please refer to your country, state, and city laws regarding the use of psychedelics and other alternative substances, because this is a rapidly expanding field. All right. So if you've been to an altered states integration event before, you know that we like to start each and every one of our events with a short mindfulness exercise. This is one of our rituals here. So let's all practice being fully present for the next hour, maybe putting away your phones if possible. And then whenever you're ready, closing your eyes if that feels comfortable, and just shifting your focus inward for a moment. Mindfulness is really at its core all about awareness. So just spending a moment to be aware, noticing what is going through your brain, trying not to judge it, just noticing what thoughts are shimmering across. Just noticing and allowing. There's nothing right or wrong to think about. Having thoughts is no better than having no thoughts. Just slowing down and noticing what things are like right here, right now, is mindfulness. And then just using our focus on our body, checking in with our body, seeing how our day has landed with us so far. Maybe we're sore. Maybe we feel great. Just slowing down to notice what our body feels like in all different areas. Mhm. And then bringing your attention to your breath, just noticing what the quality of breath that you have is right now. Let's just take 2 deep mindful breaths together to really come into this space. Starting by exhaling all the long air out. Then inhaling in through your nose, deeply, fully, really feeling your lungs expand to their fullest capacity. And then exhaling out through the mouth, letting go, releasing, relaxing. Let's do that one more time. Maybe our deepest, most mindful breath of the day. Breathing in through the nose, really feeling your lungs expand. Maybe taking an extra sip of air or two, maybe even 3 at the top. When you can't take it anymore, exhaling, releasing everything. And just letting your breath return back to its normal pace. Starting to notice your fingers and your toes. And then slowly, gently coming back to the Zoom room, where we'll be spending the next hour or so together. Welcome back, everyone. So let's get into it. Returning to reality, making meaning of psychedelics. How do we do it? What can we do better? We're going to get into it now. Let's get going.
So now what? You've had a psychedelic experience, and what's the next step? How do you proceed with what you're doing? One of the first things that you're going to want to think about is just basic physical needs, your bio needs, and how those affect the results that you get long term from your psychedelics, as well as the physical intensity that you've been through doing a psychedelic experience and how we can care for our body after that.
So why don't I just kind of start by talking about this term aftercare. Um, I'm really familiar with this term aftercare from the kink community, so I want to draw just a little bit of inspiration from there right now. So they define aftercare as the time after a sexual encounter that allows for a positive come down. It's an opportunity to regulate emotions and deepen connections. And the reason I think that this definition is pertinent is because during sex, there's all sorts of brain chemicals flying around. We have oxytocin, we have dopamine, and that's a lot of fun until these chemicals are spent. Then sometimes there's some sadness afterwards. So much like sex, psychedelic substances also release a bunch of neurochemicals into our brains, and this can make us feel fantastic. However, the universal rule of what goes up must come down is true in the state too. And these chemicals always eventually wane. So psychedelic aftercare is a way of helping your body and your mind adjust while these chemicals and altered states of consciousness fade away. Just because you remembered you are God doesn't mean that you have to take care of, or that you don't have to take care of your meat suit anymore. The mind and the body are linked together in a way that cannot be separated. After a psychedelic experience, it's essential to find ways to incorporate movement into your life, to really move into your body, become embodied, and maybe let go of any chemicals that are still floating around, like stress or anything else that might be in the body can always get moved away as well.
So one of the things that is really important to consider before you go on your psychedelic experience is leaving time for re-entry into the default world, as people might call it, or the usual space, coming out of this trip space. The first 48 hours after a trip, your neuroplasticity is the highest that it's going to be for the entire time following your psychedelic experience. And so you want to help to increase that neuroplasticity to stay higher for weeks after your experience before it returns to baseline. And if we rush back into our old lives, then really what we're doing is we're reinforcing the neurological pathways of stress. So if you think about running to your flight home under stress, you're just really condensing those neurological pathways and emotional habits that you're likely trying to change. So it's really important that you leave time so that you're not rushed back into your old life and old responsibilities. Take time at the retreat, staying an extra day, or making sure that you have a day to relax when you get home. Integration really starts long before you have the psychedelic experience. It comes when you start making an intention to have a psychedelic experience. And that's the time to really think through what your plan for integration is. Unfortunately, in our busy lives, if we don't plan for integration, by the time we come off of our psychedelics, especially if you've had a very profound, joyous movement kind of experience, then you're not going to be necessarily in the right headspace to think, oh, yeah, I need to like do all the things to keep this going. You'll probably feel so good that you're just ready to go out and take on the world. So it is really important to seek some solitude to process and to seek some company and incorporate some time for rest, and really using that contemplative time to increase your neuroplasticity. So nourishing the body is very important, both before and after your psychedelic experience. I'm not going to go real deep into this topic as it could be a whole class in itself, but it's really important while you're wearing your meat suit at its optimal level after a psychedelic experience to give it whole plant foods. You can eat a variety of diets, but avoiding ultra processed foods, sticking to mainly plant-based foods that you could prepare in your kitchen. If you can imagine making it in your kitchen, then it may be a good choice for you to eat. Really thinking about vitamins and minerals that you might need, especially if you've been suffering from things like depression or addictions, then correcting your nutritional deficiencies is going to be very important in this time frame, both before and after your psychedelic experience, to give you the most benefit for what you've done, as well as, again, trying to create a meat suit that is happy and healthy. Herbal support can be part of this, of nourishing your body. There's herbs like ashwagandha and ginseng that are considered adaptogens. These are specific herbs that help to manage the cortisol in our body and therefore our stress responses. And so right at that time when your body is maybe very relaxed from doing psychedelics and you have maybe a lower level of cortisol than you have had in a while, it's really important to support your adrenal system. Also taking herbs that support the reproduction of like your neurological tissue. So thinking about essential fatty acids, thinking about other types of mushrooms like turkey tail or Toby, what's that one we take with the, I'm sorry, I can't remember the name.
Yeah, lion's mane is a great one. It helps with neurogenesis, much like psilocybin mushrooms. So it can also kind of keep the magic alive on a very biophysical level.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate that. Also, mushrooms like reishi mushrooms that are going to improve um, your immune system and help with circulation. So thinking about herbal support also that might be helpful for other, diseases or problems that you're working on in your body. It can be a really good time to support yourself for the next several weeks or months after an experience. Um, like we talked about earlier, movement is really important. You want to really choose pleasurable things. If you like exercise, that's okay. But thinking back to times when you did movement and you enjoyed it, whether it was hiking or biking or maybe playing games with your friends, maybe it's badminton, really just kind of getting into your body more so that you can keep that mind body connection growing, again, increasing that neuroplasticity. Um, and then we also want to make sure that we're elevating our heart rate. Again, this helps us to have resilience to stress. It helps to burn cortisol. So that really helps less cortisol be around in your body during this time frame where your neurons are really resetting and are deciding how they're going to react from here on out. And then lastly, I want to encourage self-soothing. This a lot of times can be part of the five senses, and this might be having soft blankets or touch, or maybe it's listening to soothing music, or maybe it's certain textures of food. But it is really important for us to learn how to use our senses to calm our body. And during this time when we have heightened neurological activity, our body can really key into the things that are really working for us. So you may find a few new skills through doing self-soothing. And then, of course, thinking about sleep, making sure that you get plenty of sleep. We grow the most neurological tissue while we are going through our full sleep cycle. And you need to be fasted through the night, alcohol-free through the night for our body to create the hormones that we need to make new neurological tissue.
All right, integration. So I want to just start by saying that integration is a journey. It's not a destination. It's not something you're going to do once and be fully done, fully healed. More than any single action you can do, it is this process of redesigning our lives to be more holistic and striving to incorporate healthier habits and ways of existing. Psychedelics can show you where you need to do the work, but it's up to you to actually start putting that into place in your life. So if you know me, you know that I love definitions. So starting off with a definition, what is integration? So integration refers to the process by which the material accessed and insights gained in an entheogenic experience are incorporated over time into one's life in a way that benefits the individual and their community. I really like this definition because ideally it doesn't just make your life better, it makes your loved ones' lives better. It even makes maybe some difficult people in your life a little bit better. Another definition I really like is movement towards wholeness. What does wholeness mean? That varies greatly, I think, but more towards wholeness, more towards your biggest, best self. It's what I think of when I think about integration. Some argue that integration starts long before you even take a psychedelic. Starting with a focus can improve in outcomes and ensure that you have an integration plan in place before the afterglow of the drug tells you that everything's going to be okay, and integration slides to the back burner. A lot of what we do with our coaching clients is talking about integration at the beginning, right, alongside intention, because how you integrate, I think, really depends on what you're trying to get out of these substances. And we'll talk a little bit about that later.
So I'd like to introduce you to the four domains of integration. Now, this is just a concept that we have come up with. And really, it's a way of understanding that there are really four different ways of looking at integration. And that can be internal versus external and mind versus body. Now, ideally, we really want to mix all of these together at different times. However, just as when you're walking down the street, we don't want to always turn one direction or wear our shoes in the wrong way. We want to make sure that we're hitting each of these domains during the integration process. So we have the internal contemplation. This is this is meditation. This is journaling. This is listening to your recordings that somebody took while you were on psychedelics and really processing them. And this is the self work. Then we have internal somatic work. So this is also work that you're doing alone. So this might be doing a personal ritual. Maybe you've come up with some mantras that you do, and there are some motion. So maybe it could also be a yoga practice. It could be something like a tea service that you do for yourself. Flow arts flow into this category. And then we have things that are external contemplation. So external is now that you've thought about it yourself, you're still thinking about it, and now you want to think about it with other people. So this could be sharing something at a poetry slam or open mic. This could be going to an integration circle, which we have many of. And there's specific things we'll talk about in a moment why these things are really helpful for your process. If you're an internal person, doing a lot of the internal work and the somatic work, internal work, then really moving towards external contemplation can be very helpful. Then we have external somatic work. So this is, again, outward with other people, but it's body work. So this could be going to a kirtan where you are vibrating your whole body with song and music, and you're there, you're getting the mirror neurons fired up around other people, having that camaraderie and community. It could be something like cooking with friends, could be a way of integrating because you're moving around, moving your body, being up out of your chair, which is what we do a lot of sitting in this world. And then it might be something more like a dance class. Maybe you go take a partner dance class, or you go to a swing dancing event where you get to dance with various people and get to have that sort of movement, and it's external. And kind of working into all these different spaces can really help you have a more complete integration and open up those neurological pathways and keep the energy moving towards the habits that you're looking to have in your life. So expressive writing is really important. We did talk about that being part of both internal contemplation and external contemplation because you can share it. But Dr. James Penbaker of Texas University has spent the last 30 years showing that certain forms of expressive writing strengthen the immune system, result in better sleep habits, improve mental health, regulate the blood pressure, and reduce pain caused by chronic disease. So that's really powerful, especially when we take it and put it on top of using psychedelics when our brain is really open to these improvements. Additionally, expressive writing can help us make sense of difficult or traumatic memories and experiences. Penbaker explains that slowing down our thoughts by writing helps us to shift our perspectives and see our emotions in a new way. Expressive writing in conjunction with entheogens can be especially revealing when we return to these writings during the integration period. So expressive writing can be used both before, during, and after for a more complete experience. And then when you're ready, you can share some of these with other people to have feedback and reflection.
Oh, right. Creating a narrative. I think that this is a really big part of the integration process, is creating a narrative. By default, we as humans are storytellers. We are narrative-based creatures. This is something that's been around as long as we've had campfires, probably even longer, where we sit around and we tell each other stories. And being able to come up with a story and a narrative around your psychedelic experience really can help put things into focus in a way that just thinking them does not. Sometimes the act of speaking something really is what solidifies the lesson as you're trying to explain this big ineffable experience that you had under the influence of psychedelics. Suddenly you're like, aha, that's what I took away from it. So I think that creating a narrative is a really important part of this. So you can create a narrative by journaling, but you can also create a narrative by speaking a story aloud to a friend, a lover, people at an integration circle. Really speaking your truth, speaking your story can be really an important part of the integration process. I also think that there's something really powerful and profound about being witnessed by our peers, people who understand what altered state experiences are like and can offer us maybe some reflections or some feedback on our own experience can be essential in the meaning-making process that is integration. And I think it's also the last thing I want to say about this is that it lets us re-explore our intentions, right? If we set an intention for our altered state, did that intention come true? Did it not come true? Are we disappointed that our intention didn't come true? I think that there's a lot that we can explore around intentions that are profound part of the meaning-making experience. All right. So before we get to talking about our integration archetypes, we've come up with 5 different archetypes. I just want to talk a little bit about habits, because I think that this is a really big part of change, of healing, of integration. So we talked a lot about neuroscience in our first Psychedelics 101, Your Brain on Drugs, but we talked about neuroplasticity. So psychedelics increase neuroplasticity, which makes post-psychedelics a great time to work on new habits. There's 2 things I want to kind of offer when it comes to habits. The first is habit pairing. So habit pairing is something habit pairing is to do something you enjoy while completing a task that you don't enjoy. For example, I started listening to an audiobook while doing the dishes, and now I don't hate doing the dishes as much, right? I have something that's already a habit of mine, and I combined it with another habit. And then the second thing I want to offer on the habit front is habit stacking. So habit stacking is pairing, but it's being a little bit more intentional about how you're pairing. It's a trick that piggybacks new habits onto old ones. So for example, if you wanted to stretch more and you're really good at brushing your teeth, something you do every morning and every night, you can have your habit stack be brushing your teeth leads to stretching. So you can do this every day as part of your morning routine until it becomes a new habit that happens all by itself as part of your morning routine. If possible, in this example, I'd suggest you not even leave the bathroom. You want to do the 2 habits as close to each other as possible. So brush your teeth, immediately start stretching as soon as you spit, and it's much easier to incorporate that as a habit than it would be just by trying to stretch for 7 minutes every day at a random time. All right, so we have come up with these 5 psychedelic archetypes. And again, this is something that we can't get too deep into. We actually have a full class on this called the why in psychedelics. But the why you're choosing to do psychedelics determines the how you do psychedelics. And in this case, or every case, how you integrate is really important. So we have 5 different archetypes here. We have our recreational user. Those are people who want to do psychedelics for fun. Here at Altered States Integration, recreational is not a dirty word. Sometimes doing psychedelics with your friends and laughing your ass off is exactly the medicine that you need. Then we have our explorer. I think of these as our psychonaut. Whoever in the room is a psychonaut, mad respect to you. The explorer is somebody who really wants to see how far they can go in the cosmos, that is our mind. And in my mind, sometimes the explorer or the psychonaut is in like the Pokemon category. They want to try all the psychedelics, and mad respect to everyone that's in that category. Then we come on down to our ceremonial user. In my mind, this is anyone who uses ritual as a tool to navigate psychedelics. So this can be somebody who's doing it in a really traditional context, right? Going to an ayahuasca ceremony, going to a San Pedro ceremony where there's really strict indigenous rituals around these substances is a great way to be a ceremonial user. But also, you don't have to go anywhere. You can be a ceremonial user in your own home. Anyone that lights a candle or says a prayer before taking psychedelics, I think, is a ceremonial user. Making an altar is a great way to bring a little bit of ritual and ceremony into your psychedelic usage. And then we have our medicinal user. This is anyone who wants healing from psychedelics. Lots of us want that. And then lastly, we have our performance or our neurohacker. This is people who really want to increase their performance, whether mentally or physically, or artistically. And I just want to note that all of these archetypes can be transformative. All of these archetypes can overlap. And this is not a hierarchy. This is just trying to lean into your why so you can figure out your how.
So if you identify yourself as a ceremonial archetype, then integration could look like going to a kirtan, doing tea ceremonies. I'm thinking about what kinds of spiritual activities that you already enjoy, or what helps to already elevate you or tap into some of that spirituality that you were looking for in the ceremonial space. It might be a sound bath or other types of sound healing sessions. And something like Tai Chi even, that has both this spiritual and physical element for more of the movement type of integration. And then really leaning into personal rituals. So this is a great time to either take a personal ritual that you already have and like bring it back into practice more often, or to create something that you can use as a piece that could become grounding for you. The thing about things like mantras, rituals, and even mindfulness and meditation is that these are pieces of a puzzle that the more that we use them, the more powerful they become. And so again, during this neuroplastic time, you can really enhance their ability to do the magic that you're looking for.
All right, up next, we have our neurohacker. So for the neurohacker, I want to offer a little bit of wisdom. That which is not tracked can't be hacked. What does that mean? Well, it means that if you're a neurohacker, if you're really trying to tune up your brain with psychedelics, that you should be tracking a lot of things or some very specific things, depending on what you're working on. So in my mind, how to integrate as a neurohacker involves having a detailed journal. This is full of tracking and a lot of the senses. So tracking your habits, maybe you're trying to build some new habits, maybe you're trying to decrease an old habit, right? If you're trying to drink less alcohol, track that. How do you know if you're consuming less alcohol if you don't track it? You can also track mood, physical exercise, food. There's so much that you can track as a neurohacker. Other ways to integrate might be flow state activities. I would say this is anything creative that's a little bit difficult. Painting, drawing, dancing, flow arts. There's so many different things here. So do what you like and really notice if it's easier to fall into that effortless space of creation. And then lastly, microdosing can be a great way for the neurohacker to keep that magic up, keep that tracking going, and see if they can just have a tiny shift on their perception to keep their performance up.
So the explorer archetype also, is thinking about what is beyond the other side. And so really, there's a lot of different ways to integrate for this person. It might include writing a trip report and sharing it with friends, or publishing it on Airwoods, just like you would share a story about a journey that you went to Europe. You might want to take some long hikes to kind of go through the process of this journeying again and to see what's going to some new places and new horizons. I think there's also a really good place here for explorers to paint or draw something to capture their experience or to do some sort of art that.
All right, looks like we lost Elizabeth, but the explorer, I think there's so many different ways for the explorer to really capture that message and share it. And I want to give a shout out to trying other altered states. Non-psychedelic altered states are a huge part of exploring, right? Exploring our consciousness. There's different breathworks out there that are reported to have altered state effects. Ice baths, right? That's definitely an altered state. Getting into a hella cold ice bath. Brr. All right, it looks like Elizabeth is back. Is there anything else you wanted to say on the Explorer before we moved on, Elizabeth? All right, keeping us moving. We have the recreational user. Again, we love the recreational user at Altered States Integration. Sometimes we are recreational users. And fun, play, that can be very healing, but how do you keep it alive? I think a lot of the time, recreational users are taking psychedelics with their friends. So really planning a way to share your trip reports or storytell with your friends as part of your journey, I think can be huge. One of my favorite rituals for a while was having brunch with my friends. We'd wake up, we'd go to the French bakery, we'd bring home some pastries and some beignets, and then we'd share stories of our night together and really what was important. Again, art integration can be really fun. Maybe in this case, I'd recommend some finger painting or some watercolors, a little bit of whimsy to recreate that recreational attitude. Dance it out. Body-based integration is huge. And maybe you want to have a dance party in your living room, or maybe you want to go to ecstatic dance with your friends that evening after a nap. Doesn't matter. Whatever works for you is probably good integration. Then lastly, learning a new hobby. This can be a great way to flex that neuroplasticity. It can be a great way to kind of keep some of that magic alive. And it's fun, right? Learning something new that you're passionate about is a lot of fun. And oftentimes that's the best medicine that we can have.
So the medicinal user, very special group of users in that many times they are trying to heal from deep, deep wounds, either physically or mentally, emotional. And so really leaning into the other medicinal modalities that are available, like yoga or emotion journaling, creating a new health plan, like what is going to work for me right now. And of course, really trying to not overwhelm yourself in this space, but picking just a few things to really focus on. Maybe it's acupuncture or massage or therapy. Coaching can be part of this if you've been really struggling with your life for a while and things have kind of fallen apart. It can be intimidating to like go back through and pay all the bills and get caught up on all the worldly things that kind of stack up when we're not able to when we're overwhelmed and not able to get our life done. And so really having a coach is a really good way to have somebody there that can help break down the pieces into manageable steps and help you start making those steps forward as you're kind of learning how to have this new life that hopefully is worth living.
All right. Effort in integration. I want to start off by offering a quote from the one, the only Elizabeth J. O. This is from her book about her own experience processing an ibogaine experience. She says, integration is a daily thing for all of us. We live in experience only to turn around and contemplate what it all means. Sharing our pain and happiness and feeling connectedness is the quintessential experience of being human. Well put, right? So integration can be hard. It doesn't always have to be, but integration is not easy. Psychedelics are not a magic pill. They show you where there's work to be done. And the so what, the what now, I think that is where you really have to start doing the work. Integration takes a long time or a while. There's 3 weeks to 3 months where you're going to have this really increased period of neuroplasticity. So really take advantage of that, right? Plan to slow down, plan to learn new hobbies and skills, plan some extra therapy sessions, plan an extra long hike. There's so many different ways to integrate. So really lean into your why and your how. Like, I think if you figure out your why, the how becomes clear, right? And how to process these experiences is probably just as important as how we take them. I want to just offer that integration is non-linear. Sometimes it'll feel like we go backwards in the weeks following an altered state experience. That's okay. Trust the process, lean into your healthy habits, lean into whatever your integration plan was. Ideally, you have the plan set up ahead of time that you'll be attending an integration circle, you'll be going for a hike with your friends, you'll be having brunch, like whatever it is, it doesn't matter. Just really mindfully and intentionally coming to your integration plan and trusting that before you took the psychedelic, that this plan has merit, that this plan has value. And not every tool will work every time. That's hard and challenging. But really, like, think of it like a science experiment. What works, what doesn't work, do more of what works. If it doesn't work, throw it in the trash can. And then lastly, integration is personal. It is our own journey. And at some point, this attention to integration, to personal growth, it naturally falls off. It's okay. It's part of being human, is to returning to the mundane, returning to your day-to-day life and seeing if things are maybe, just maybe a little bit brighter, a little bit more hopeful. And it's okay at some points to take a break from healing from time to time and just be, right? Existing is hard enough without always having to be striving and grinding and trying to make today the day that you heal. And sometimes it's okay to just take a break and exist imperfectly as you are right here and just be here now. Anything you want to say about effort and integration, Elizabeth, before we move on to questions? All right. It looks like we have a little bit of time, but before we get to questions, if you want to throw them into the chat, I just want to say that we have so much different educational material, so many things here that we talked about tonight for 3 minutes. Each of these topics we could talk about for an hour. So I'm going to throw a link in the chat to some of our educational content. We have a lot of recorded content. If that's something that you're interested in, we'd love to connect over that. So I'll throw the link to that in the chat in just a second.
So, what kinds of questions do people have about integration? Or maybe you have a question about something you're thinking about doing for integration and you'd like to hear some feedback. We're open to those sort of questions as well. Or if there's a topic that we talked about, we're happy to point you to other resources for further learning about these really big topic of integration.
All right. While we're waiting for any questions to bubble up, I just want to personally invite everyone to the last of our 5-part series next Tuesday, Blast Off Basics. What to know before you go. It's going to be a good one. Don't miss it.
All right. It doesn't look like we have any questions tonight, so hopefully we covered the topic thoroughly. We appreciate your patience with any fumbling we did a little bit during the presentation. We are in this wonderful starlit room. We are hot on the tail of some power outages here at our house. So it's been a real pleasure to do this, and we appreciate people showing up and enjoying our presentation. Have a good night, everyone.